everyone, and welcome to another episode of Annie Talks, where we bring to you interesting stories about interesting people that you want to know about. I'm your host, Emedin Rivera. Thank you for tuning in, and to those who have already subscribed. If you're new to the podcast, welcome, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. And if so, I personally invite you to subscribe. Annie Talks is brought to you by Luxwear Trends, affordable, luxurious timepieces for every occasion, luxury that lasts forever, and that's what sets us apart from others. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or visit luxweartrends.com. That's Luxe weartrends.com. My guest on this podcast is five-time Emmy Award-winning percussionist Emedin Rivera, no relation in case you were wondering. Born and raised in the Bronx, New York, Emedin started playing the bongos at the tender age of 8 years old, due largely in part to his father and his uncle, who also played the bongos in Puerto Rico. The way in which Emedin plays percussions is very mesmerizing as he blends Latin Caribbean with African, fusion, merengue, salsa, etc. You name it, he plays it. Emedin has recorded with heavyweights in the music industry such as Harry Belafonte, Gregory Hines, Ben E. King, Dave Samuels, Latoya Jackson, Vicky Sue Robinson, and the list goes on. Emedin has also recorded live with Larry Coryell, Bob James, Chuck Mangione, Rick Kua, Denise Williams, and that list goes on and on. Emedin is no stranger to music, as you can tell from this impressive list of credits, but he has also invented a new type of instrument with the help of master craftsman Matthew Smith of Ritmo Percussion, which you'll learn more about in this podcast. So, without further ado, here now is my conversation with Emedin Rivera. Hi, Emedin.
How you doing, Annie?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on this show. I really, truly appreciate it.
Good to have you. Long time no hear.
Yeah, no kidding. So just so everybody knows the background behind or between Emedin and myself, we met way back in, years and years, when I was working for then Yamaha, and we met at NAMM, the National Association of Music Merchants, the annual music merchant trade show that happens here in the city of Anaheim. And I fell in love with Emedin and his percussion playing and his instrumental, everything, his vibe. And I really was intrigued by the music and by his percussion playing. So I wanted to talk to Emedin today because he has some wonderful projects coming up, and which we'll get to. But Emedin, just so everybody has an idea of your background, why don't you talk a little bit about your background? I know that you were born and raised in New York, in the Bronx, New York, and then you migrated to Puerto Rico. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing and what it was like to be in New York and what it was like to be in Puerto Rico.
Well, it was kind of, I would say, crazy. New York is New York, and you're brought up playing around the streets and having fun, and it's just New York City. At the age of 12, my parents went to move to Puerto Rico, so we went to Puerto Rico at the age of 12 and stayed in Puerto Rico till I joined the Air Force, which was like 20 years later or whatever. I guess what started me in music was that I remember when I would get sick back in the day, my mother would buy me toys to make me feel better. And the toys that she would buy me would be toy bongos, toy maracas. So I guess that started a little thing in me. And I would watch my father and my uncles play guitars and play maracas and stuff like that. So I'm thinking that's what started my music.
So now, who, besides your family, is there any one particular musician or artist that inspired you to become a musician?
Yeah, the ones that inspired like 90% of everybody, the Beatles. Once I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, it was all over. I wanted to be a drummer from then on. It's amazing how that show inspired so many musicians, the Beatles, on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Was there a song that inspired you, or you were just, enamored by the whole experience?
The whole thing, the music, the look, it was just from then on. I wanted to be a drummer. After I saw Ringo Starr and the Beatles, that was my goal right there.
Now, how would you describe your music? What is the flavor of your music or genre?
The music that I'm playing now is sort of Latin jazz type of vibe. Percussion and Latin percussion in there. I've tended to go towards that route. I mean, I played Latin music when I was living in Puerto Rico, but once I came to the States, I started to play rock and funk and jazz and everything else. And I came up with liking more Latin jazz. And this record that's coming out is towards that type of music, Latin jazz, with a little fusion in it.
Fusion, I love that. That's awesome. So I think now would be a really good time to hear a snippet of his music. It's on his record. It is called Look My Way, and it features, of course, Emedin Rivera, and it also features the late Dave Valentine, who is a famous flute player. So everybody, here is a small snippet of Look My Way. So there you go. That was a wonderful small snippet of Look My Way, featuring Emedin Rivera and Dave Valentine, the late, great Dave Valentine. Now, Emedin, who was your biggest influence?
I would say Dave Valentine, because once I moved to New York City, I made some connections, and I went to see Dave Valentine play at the Bottom Line. And Dave had a drummer and two percussionists. One percussionist was playing just toys, and the other percussionist was playing congas, and then they had the drummer. So it's three cats playing. The guy that was playing the toys caught my eye with just the sounds that he was doing and all the special effects he was doing, because I've never seen that before. So that made me get into toys and sound effects, stuff like that. But what's weird is I would listen, when I was living up in Syracuse, upstate New York, I would listen to Dave Valentine all the time, never thinking that I would ever work with him. But he was my idol then. So when I came to New York and I saw him, I was hooked. And long story short, I ended up playing with him. So he was one of the first people in New York City to give me a break. He was one of the first, Dave Valentine. This record is dedicated to him, that's coming out now. But he was one of the first that gave me a helping hand.
That's awesome.
There's so many people out there that, Giovanni Hidalgo, Richie Flores, all these great percussionists are out there now. My thing is, I came up with a system I call percussion kit conga toms. Mm-hmm. You play drums and congas at the same time simultaneously. And a lot of people are not doing it, but that's the system I came up with, which I like doing. And my whole record is recorded that way, playing drums and congas at the same time, which is different from everybody else. When a percussionist does a record, he usually lays down congas, then he'll put shakers, and he'll put drums. He'll layer everything to make it sound big and great. Whereas I did completely the opposite. I just played everything at the same time, which is very difficult to do, but I wanted to do this record this way. And that's my main thing on this record is the conga toms percussion kit, as I call it, playing drums and congas at the same time. That's what makes this record different from all the other percussion records that are out there.
That's great. Now, I know that we have a YouTube video that I could link down below in the description for everybody to check out, but you do also feature the conga toms. And without going into too much detail, why don't you tell everybody basically what the conga toms are? I know they consist of a conga, of course, and a tom-tom. So for somebody like me off the street who doesn't really know what either of them are, so why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. The conga toms is what I did was I took a normal tom-tom from a drum set and converted the top end into a conga. I made hardware to fit a conga head. So I put an actual conga head on the top of the tom-tom, which sounds like a conga. And I left the other normal head on the bottom of the tom-tom. So you're able to play these tom-toms sounding like congas and not have to carry a conga, which is big and heavy. So these tom-toms, these conga toms, are great for, doing gigs in and out. I mean, it's just an easier way of traveling with these conga toms, and they sound like congas. They actually sound like congas. And that's what I'm pushing right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that everybody should check that out. It's I love the sound. It's an interesting sound. It's a combination of the two. And you do really feel like as though there's two people playing when there's really only one. Really, really very great concept. I love it. So now tell us a little bit about your music and how you touched very little on that just now, but what makes your music stand out, say, from others? How are you different from others? Well,
that's how I differ from others. I play congas and drums at the same time. That's, I'm actually playing a conga, hi-hat, snare, bass drum, a cymbal simultaneously, which sounds like 2 or 3 people. I believe this is the wave of the future. It's no longer good enough just to play a couple of congas, music has changed. You got to be able to play different instruments at the same time to stay afloat on this music industry now. People are using so many electronics now. It takes away from the real deal. So all these great conga players, I had to separate myself from all of them and put myself in a position where I'm different from everybody else. So if somebody, usually in the percussion business, we're the first ones to go. When you're on the road, you're playing with somebody, and the money gets bad after a while or whatever, the first people that they let go are the percussionists. They figured they could do without. So I've made it so I'm playing congas and drums now. They can't. It makes it a little harder for them to let me go, because you're covering the both seats.
What are some of your biggest accomplishments? Last time I counted, you have 3 Emmy Awards. I would gather that is one of or some of your biggest accomplishments. But can you touch a little bit on some of your biggest accomplishments?
Well, I have 5 Emmy Awards now.
Oh, see, last time I counted was 3.
Yes. PBS and CBS, mostly documentaries that I've done, recorded for, right. And it's cool to have them up on my wall. But other than that, it don't really mean a whole lot. It's just I got 5 Emmy Awards. I'm a freelance musician, so my accomplishments are being able to play all sorts of music with all different types of folks. Whereas if you stay stagnant to one type of music, that's all you do. Being a freelance musician and learning all these different rhythms, you're able to play with Irish, African, Latin, rock, funk. You're able to do all these different jobs. That's why I consider myself a freelance musician. Till now that I'm doing my own project. My own project. This is the first time ever I have anything done under my name, as being the leader. So I'm really excited about this record to come out.
So this is truly your biggest accomplishment. I'm very, very excited and super proud, and I cannot wait to hear and for the world to hear your music and the style in which you play. So I'm really looking forward to that. Tell us a little bit about. Let's go back to your upbringing. Not so much your upbringing, maybe your touring or your performing, recording sessions. What are some of the most memorable stories that you can share with us? I always like to delve into the behind the scenes. I am such a behind the scenes lover that I love everything about it. I love to, you uncover so many truths and intimate moments, or you catch a performer, entertainer off guard, and where they're more quiet, subdued, or introverted, whatever. I think there's a lot to be said about entertainers, musicians, performers, artists behind the scenes. So I love learning about what goes on behind the scenes. So if there's anything that you could share with us about something that sticks out that was memorable to you.
Well, recently, Lucy Arnaz, her daughter. Well, I did a gig with her, and I remember we were in New York, and she rented a van. And this is Lucy Arnaz, the daughter, and we're getting ready to do a show. And I remember I said, you know what? I'll drive. And she said, no, I'll drive. That took me back because, you work with some people that have, the artist status and they act like it, whereas this lady just was so humble and saying, no, I'll drive. And I'm saying to myself, wow, this is the artist. And she's driving. I was like really surprised, because I've worked with artists where, they don't care, it's just about them. Whereas Lucy, she was like, no, I'll drive. And even though that took me back. And same with Gregory Hines. When I worked with Gregory Hines, there would be a limo outside and outside the hotel, and it'll be a van. So when we would get ready to go to the show, Gregory would just tell us, you guys take the limo, I'll get in the van. That's the type of person he was. Very humble, down to earth, And I've worked with other people, which I don't want to name no names, where, you get in the van and they're in the limo and they're in the better hotels and you're at someplace else. I've done both ends. So I really, I think that the more you know of yourself, the artist, the more confident the person is, and he or she doesn't have an attitude about anything. They just go about living their lives, not thinking of themselves all the time. Those are little
Very
things
true.
that I remember when they treat the musicians right. That really, that's things like that is what I remember.
Oh, those are wonderful stories. Oh, I'm so glad that you shared those with us. Thank you. So now let's talk about your project, the project that you're working on. I know we talked a little bit about that. So tell us a little bit more and your projected timeline. Where do you see, when do you think the album or the record will be ready for release?
Okay. Well, I'm hoping for the next 3 months it should be out by then. This project has taken a long time. I have like 20 different people playing on this project, and it's been a lot of work. This is my first project, and I played everything with the conga toms, and I got a lot of feedback from engineers because they would tell me that nobody's gonna know that you're playing congas and drums at the same time unless you write it on the CD, because they wanted me to play congas first, then drums. They wanted me to layer everything like everybody else does. So they were giving me a hard time about me playing everything together because it's hard for them to mic all the different instruments and get the right levels and stuff. So that was a little battle there at the beginning. After they realized that I knew what I was doing, it worked out. So it's It's crazy. For this project, I went and built a little studio in my basement. So I did most of the stuff in my basement. Music has changed because you do these records, you spend crazy money doing a record, and there's no place to play. You know, you only sell the records on your jobs, on your gigs. That's when you get to sell them. You know, there's no more Tower Records. I just heard Best Buy is no longer going to be selling CDs. So it's, you know, musicians put all this work and effort and money out to do CDs, records, and they're not, you know, the only place you can sell them is when you get a job. So it's, you know, it's, I guess we make CDs to have like a calling card now. This is my calling card. You give somebody a CD. It's not like before that, you know, you getting airplay on the radio and you get, you know, you're all over the place. I mean, it's not that way anymore.
We'll be sure and link your information down below again in the description so everybody can check it out. Okay, so we'll have all that information, and everybody should just still check out EmedinRivera.com, his website, and you'll see all of he'll keep you abreast as to the launch date and what's coming up in the future, so we'll be sure to keep you posted on that. So now the last thing I have is for aspiring musicians. I know that you said Dave Valentine was the inspiration for you. For aspiring musicians, what takeaway, what message can you give them?
Well, for aspiring musicians, the first thing I'm going to tell them is you have to have it. To be a musician is not easy. First of all, you really have to have it in your heart to do what you want to do, to play guitar or whatever you want to play for a living. You know what I'm saying? You really, really have to do it, you know, have it within. Because if you don't, you know, it's not going to work. My thing is, you know, keep on playing and playing. I'll never stop playing. There's no such thing as retirement for real musicians. They never stop. It's forever. But my advice is really love what you're doing, because if you don't love it, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You could take all the lessons you want, but if you don't love your craft, don't bother. I mean, that's me. I've been doing this all my life, and it's always ups and downs in this business, always. But I love what I do, and I continue to do it. So my advice to everybody, love what you do and do it all the way. Don't half-step, you know.
Great words of wisdom, everybody. Great words of wisdom. Emedin, thank you so much for being on my show. I really, truly appreciate it. And like I said, we'll link all the information down below in the description and for everybody to check out your website. And we cannot wait. I cannot wait to hear the record and just to be able to share that with the world. So thank you again for being on my show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, that's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and learning more about the 5-time Emmy Award-winning percussionist Emedin Rivera and his upcoming record and project he's currently working on. Be sure to visit his website, EmedinRivera.com, where you can find out more information about the release date, view his videos, sample his music, and see photos. Or you can check out my website at AnnieTalks.com, where I will also update his upcoming release date and more information on Emedin Rivera. Be sure to leave a comment in the comment section and also rate this podcast. It would surely help me out. I'd also love to hear from you, so tell me where you're listening from. Let me know what topics you'd like to hear about, and we may just feature them in a future podcast, with a shout out to you, of course, for suggesting it. If you haven't already checked out my YouTube channel, be sure to check out the link in the description box of this podcast. There you'll find interesting videos on fitness, product reviews, tutorials, my celebration awareness videos, and other Annie Talks and special guests. And last but not least, if you haven't already subscribed to my podcast, be sure to hit subscribe and be notified of new episodes. Thank you all again for stopping by, and keep listening to Annie Talks.
Hi, this is Emedin Rivera, and you're listening to Annie Talks. I have a new CD coming out in a few months called Tropical Turbulence. Check it out and stay tuned with Annie Talks.